morning, India. Welcome to the seventh edition of myLaw's Casual Conversations with Citizens, where we talk with some of the nation's most talented, creative, and interesting, extraordinary citizens about their lives and their encounters with law and justice. India has for millennia been one of the world's greatest homes to art and culture. We have produced and continue to produce some remarkable individuals who draw, paint, sculpt, and perform in a manner that opens new vistas to all of us. Today, we have with us an artist who not only boasts an extensive repertoire of her own, but has also embarked on deep personal journeys in her work while examining those of her many colleagues and contemporaries. We will embark on today's conversation with a slight alteration. We will, as suits a visual medium and a wonderful visual artist, provide accompanying images of her work during this session. Manisha Gera Baswani, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Gopal, for inviting me.
Manisha, I just wanted to ask you just to get back to the beginning. You've mentioned at many points that you were very fortunate to have a supportive family at a time when interest in the arts and culture was not severely encouraged in Indian homes. We remember what that was like. And I suspect that continues to abide in many homes now. What was your childhood like? How was it that your parents were so encouraging of your pursuits?
I just feel blessed to have the parents I do. And there is something very beautiful which is written in our philosophy that we choose our parents. So I think I chose my parents, and I think it becomes so much more special because both my parents were, displaced during partition. So the first thing they wanted is education for the children. And coming from a simple, I wouldn't call it humble, but a modest home. But to have education high on the agenda was my parents' prerogative. And unlike the South Indians, where education culture is, kind of embedded, I'm a Punjabi. So I just feel my parents gave me all that they felt me and my brother should get to help me develop fully. And I really do thank them for that. Life was not very easy for them. It was a struggle because, you come back completely displaced, having nothing to do. My father, in fact, studied engineering on a footpath under a street light. My mother, at the age of 26, was supporting the entire family because there was nothing left. And in these circumstances, for both of them to come together, it was an arranged marriage, but it's beautiful. I feel they also chose each other. To come together and have education as upmost on their agenda is something my brother and I just constantly feel blessed about.
You've also talked about how you feel that you've not been as indulgent with your children as your mother was with you. I remember reading somewhere that she used to put these newspapers up to your tiny toddler height, so you could just go nuts painting on that. Why are you such a harsh critic of yourself?
I think in my case, I like aesthetics a lot. So I don't see myself putting newspaper on the walls in the house. It bothers me. Yeah. But having said that, I did indulge the kids in the studio. In the sense, I would let them splash water, do anything on the walls. But that was the sanctimonious place for them. Unlike my mother, who actually put newspaper for 2 feet till the height till which my hand could reach on all the walls of the house. And I wonder what made her do that? It was so creative, And I remember scribbling all over the house. And I have not indulged my kid on that, but I'm indulging them in other ways. So we just need to be comfortable with what we indulge people in our life with. Their prerogative was different, mine is different, but that doesn't take it away from the fact that I do my own bit, yes, to give them what I need to. Although unlike my brother and I, my kids are not creatively inclined. And as some of the seniors in the art world tell me, don't worry, ho jayega. In time to come, they will absorb it. They're more into soccer, they're more into music, but the basic beauty is that they are finding ways for creative expression. And that's what's important. All these things come later in life also. So I have a feeling whenever we travel and they're so upset about us taking them to the museums, but so we negotiate. I said, okay, so 2 movies, 1 mall, 1 park, and 2 museums. So hopefully in time to come, they will be thankful to us for that.
Yeah, yeah. Now, as an artist parent, when your kids go to school and they do art there, um, do you find yourself occasionally judging the quality of art education? And do you feel our schooling systems do not place enough of the premium that it must on art, not only in being creative, but also appreciating creativity?
Yes, I feel very strongly about that. And I try to do my bit. But yes, my younger kid goes to the Shivnadar school,
Oh,
so
yeah.
which is owned by Kiran and Shivnadar.
Yes.
So I'm very happy because that's one school which takes kids regularly to museums, which is their
Right.
own museum and many other. But yes, it's highly lacking. Even if you don't take the kids to museums, I just feel we as parents, when we travel, whether even to Bombay or Calcutta, how many of us ourselves go to a museum? Do we know how many museums we have in our country, right? Forget about going abroad. But yes, if we go abroad, we will go to the Louvre. So why is Louvre more important than the Salarganj Museum?
Yeah.
That's always my question, that we need to be proud of being Indian. And that would start by first going to our heritage sites, you know, and for which I think, yes, I mean, I'm not very well versed with the dynamic of it all, but I feel the role of agencies, governments, private institutions becomes paramount because, uh, if they make it tourist friendly, if they give it enough advertising time, why wouldn't we, you know? So
Yeah.
if Amitabh Bachchan can come and talk about Gujarat Gir, there is a voice.
Yeah.
So can we galvanize people who can be the voice? And for that, we need all of us to come together in some way, right? It doesn't need money. People who have got things in life sometimes want to give back, and this could be their give back to our country because we are very rich, and our
Yes.
kids need to know how rich we are. We don't need to go to Prada and to, you don't need to go to museums and expensive shops to know what we as a country are. It needs to be both, as an assimilation of India and the West.
No, so that brings me back to that question that as adults who are bringing up kids and as a schooling system and a government system, um, do you feel that there are some other things that we could do to get more people interested in understanding art? You know, very often I think a lot of the problem is we don't understand. We just see the finished product, right? So we don't know the process that went into it. We don't know the difference between, say, how difficult it is to put oil on canvas in a particular fashion, and your own medium, which you work with so often, gouache. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes,
Yeah,
gouache. Yes.
gouache, and the kind of board you use. You know, I find it always quite interesting that we don't know any of this. We're never taught any of this. There's no system for just a layman to figure this out, right?
Mm.
How do you think we could bridge that gap?
Delhi Heart, for one, in Delhi, is
Yeah.
this beautiful place where craftsmen interact directly with the consumer or the person who goes to see the beautiful place. So I think, Nandalal Bose said, when my guru tells me, my guru is A. Ramachandran, and he tells me
Yeah.
that Nandalal Bose insisted on having the most beautiful artworks in Shantiniketan around them. And he says, when we surround ourselves with object of beauty, our eye constantly starts getting discerning.
Hmm.
So when I hear of the Tyagaraja festival in Chennai, where parents take their kids, it's not that kids are naturally learning it, but it's being absorbed, right? So if our environment has objects of beauty, which need not be just art, which could be a beautiful work of craft, which could be a ceramic piece, which could be a clay from Bankura, inspired object.
Yeah.
When our eye starts falling on beauty, which need not be expensive, mind you, it could be a weave, it could be a plate which is set well with food. we start looking at, we start evolving in our senses. And in Hindi, the panch indriyan, the five senses.
Yeah.
Why, how do they get evolved? When we have access to those aspects and we start becoming discerning. So it's a very slow process, Gopal. Some people do it through education, go straight to college. But I think if we go to villages, our villagers have a much higher aesthetic value than we middle class people, right? Why is that? Because they are surrounded with nature, and
Yeah,
nature is the most beautiful uh, design for mankind. There can't be anything better than nature for design. And that's what inspires most of us creative people. So I think more important if we start talking about looking, hearing, feeling as aspects of learning in schools, and not just schools, all of us. I mean, where did we Indians lose our aesthetic, right?
yes.
So I'll give you a small example. And without being modest, I keep a very beautiful home. And my home not just has contemporary art, but it has a lot of craft and it has a lot of objects which are picked from the garden where in the condominium I live, which includes fish palms, which includes seeds, which includes bamboo, dried bamboo. So invariably, when people who are helping me with the house, including the gas cylinder person, including the courier guy, suppose they need to come in for a cup of water, etc., they will say, "Madam, आपका घर बहुत मजा आ रहा है. We really enjoy your house." And why is that? We would think they don't have aesthetics, but why is it that something makes them feel at peace with themselves? Because the energy of objects of beauty make you nearer to yourself, your what God has created in you, you know. So I feel it can be a very beautiful process. It could be conversations like what you're doing is a conversation. And imagine if 100 kids in some college in some part of India hear it, they will say, yes, let me start looking differently.
Yeah.
I don't have to go through a rigorous school. And frankly, I feel more important is the natural way of acclimatizing ourselves to beauty. And that could be not just museums, it could be just keeping your eyes, ears, senses all open. That's what I feel. But yes, to answer it more, pointedly, I think, yes, our schools could have a curriculum. They could be given, they could be asked to go to, museums. I'm not sure how many schools take our kids. It's like in Delhi to the National Museum.
Yeah.
Why not, right? The National Museum of Modern Art, the Modern Archives. Why is it that these are not aspects of learning through osmosis, through absorption? But that doesn't happen. They could invite artists like us to go speak to them. I've done a few workshops, but mostly for British and French school. Why is that? Why do they ask us to give workshops when our own schools in India can ask us, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I feel the mindset needs to change. I also feel what will help is the economic change in the arts, so that there's a shift.
Yeah.
I took up art at a time where a lot of aunties would say, "हाँ बेटा आप ये करते हो art, but और क्या करते हो?" Right?
Yeah.
What else do you do apart from art? But that has shifted. I'm called by many parents to ask, how should we help our child in art? And these are corporate parents. And I feel that's good. So when you are economically settled, you're happy to give your offsprings, your children, the next level of learning, which is not the typical professions. I've gone too long, but yes.
No. But I think it's necessary, because if we don't hear it from people like you, who are we going to hear it from?
Yeah.
Manisha, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about your college life in Jamia, which has been much in the news, as you know, this year, and whether it pains you. And I also wanted to ask you a little bit about your guru, Mr. Ramachandran. But I understand you have some works of art that we could just take a glance at and maybe learn something from. So if you could just share that on the screen.
I'll do that. I'll share them quickly and we can talk if you feel while we are doing this.
Yeah. Are you disturbed about what's been happening at Jamia?
About everything, I think, in today's situation. I think which citizen will not be disturbed, right?
I agree.
Yeah. But if you ask me, have I gone there? No, I haven't. That's not my way to protest.
Yeah.
And,
no, I meant you've been a student there. So,
Yes.
I mean, you would have possibly an insider's view, obviously from many years ago, but of what that institution is, what it stands for, what it means, and the fact that it's at the heart of something like this, where unfortunately we have to see police of the state entering your libraries and your compounds.
Yeah.
Must be, these are places you've been in.
Yeah.
We just
Yeah.
watch them on the screen. I mean, it must be personal in some way for you, right?
No, it is, of course. So I was in touch with most friends,
Yeah,
and a lot of artist friends have gone physically to sit
yeah,
there. They have. But as I said, my way of looking at things is I create. I'm
yeah,
not an activist artist. And I want to reiterate, because that doesn't take away from what I believe in,
yeah,
what I stand for. But
yeah,
as an artist, I think I want to create. And that's what I want to do. And my work is
yeah.
also not bordering on activism. And I'm very clear about that. The pain comes in my work. In fact, my recent works, which I'll show you towards the end,
Yeah,
has an underlying pain of where we are. And at the
right.
same time, I'm an optimist. So there is pain, but there's a lot of hope, you know?
Yeah,
So I don't know. Yeah, you can see the screen also, Gopal. I'm just
yeah.
taking it quickly. This is so
So,
as you can see, and this is in hindsight, I look back and I feel I've always been a family person. This is actually before my marriage, how we have tables,
oh
saucers
yeah,
for. So this is my family, my parents and my brother. We take the
that's good.
form of plates.
Okay, how
It's
sweet.
it's a 1995 work.
What have you used? What's the medium?
This is watercolors. This is
Okay,
watercolors.
watercolors.
I got
Okay.
married into a family where there was a lot of movie going, music, art. So my husband's
This is
diehard.
James Bond, is it?
Yes, it is.
Huh.
So when I got married, I mean, I realized he was all about James Bond. He made me watch Star Wars and James Bond. So I did a
Yeah.
series of James Bond, if
Oh,
James Bond was to be seen through an Indian artist.
how sweet.
This is also a James Bond work.
Yeah,
They're all
yeah,
watercolors.
yeah.
I'm very inspired by our heritage. And
Right.
so for me, as I said, going to monuments, seeing old buildings has all been part of my growing up. This is an image from an old Haveli.
Okay.
These are very early works, year 2000.
So, do you look back at older works like this now and get more critical about them?
No, I'm not critical, but I'm detached.
Okay.
Because, it's our journey. We
Yeah.
cannot take away what we were. It is
Correct.
where we are has been slowly added to. So yes, but if I look at these works, like this is an Elvis.
Elvis. Yeah.
And my sister-in-law is a musician. She's a lead singer. She has been for the Cirque du Soleil.
Oh,
So when I got married, she had a pink room with lots of Elvis books.
yeah.
And Elvis was
Wow.
so this is an image inspired by Elvis. But yes,
Okay.
I look at this and I look at my current work and I feel, my God, that's been a huge shift. So
Yeah.
this is again called For Your
Wow.
Eyes Only.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is when I had my first child. So
Okay.
my work, as I said, is deeply about me. And I don't do it consciously, Gopal. I work with a blank piece of paper or canvas and it flows. And that's how I am as a human being. And that's how my art is. So this is actually my first ultrasound of my first child.
How you? This is also done with
So
watercolors.
it's the watercolor, yes. I think
But
most of the works you will see are watercolors.
how do you get that slightly gray mottled kind of effect?
So the base
You
is
use very
actually,
tiny brushes.
the base, I do use very thin brushes. They are
Okay.
made with squirrel hair. And yes, it's very dexterous brush to use with. So yes,
Right.
this body of work is very detailed and I use a separate power glasses for my work.
Oh.
This is when you used to see ads on the back with from certain numbers, call us if you're unhappy.
Yeah.
And this is a pun on the Naika. We have the Naika Bhav in our philosophy, and I've
Yeah.
called it the cyber Naika. So she's
Oh.
waiting to give you happiness on the
Oh.
phone.
Okay.
And this is the 2002 work, much before technology had come in a big way.
Yeah. And this says Shikishi board. What is Shikishi board?
Board is a Japanese board. And my guru, Mr. Ramachandran, was taught by his Japanese teacher. And thanks to Shantiniketan being a place of so much learning from Asian artists. He had access to mediums which people like them brought. And
Okay,
he
wow.
introduced me to this board, which I got from Japan.
Okay.
And
But
clearly
is
you
it
can
better
see,
in absorbing the color or reflecting it or something? I mean, what's the...
well, each medium has its own strength. I
Okay.
mean, even the quality of paper, a 100 GSM paper and a 300 GSM will have different
Yeah.
levels.
Yeah.
But it's the meditative act of working on a medium which gives you answers. And that answer need not be just about the medium and the tool, but it somehow opens many windows, right?
Yeah.
So the more you work, the more your learning is, and that learning is not just about the act of working on that piece of paper with the material, but many windows open.
Yeah.
Now that's a big oil. It's an Elvis, as you can see.
Yeah. Legs.
My second child, I had butterflies in my stomach.
Okay.
And when I would go for ultrasound, so this is an image from that particular time. It's a 2003 work. It's called Deep Sleep.
Right.
I did a series of works with tea water, literally chai ka pani.
Okay.
You brew tea leaves,
Yeah.
and the more you brew it, the more you sun it, the darker it becomes. So these
Okay.
are very, very, how do I put it, is the word natural colors, organic. These are very layered works with tea water. And of
Okay.
course there's gouache, but it's primarily chai ka pani.
Oh. My middle daughter was told by our art teacher yesterday to do something with coffee water.
Yes, so
Coffee and
tea and
water. So she
coffee
was
both can be used.
right.
And in earlier miniatures, our miniature artists used to use it as a base,
Okay.
or sometimes between layers. So they would do a layer of work, and they would put chai ka pani ka coat, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So this is my family again. There are
Yeah.
people, family members in these flowers.
I can see that.
And so it's phases one goes through. As I said, that was a happy phase. This was a difficult time I was going through.
Okay.
I'm not saying I did it purposely that time, but that's the kind of work that comes out when when your work is about you.
Yeah. No,
This
so let
man,
me ask you something about the work being about you. Artists express themselves, and very often people who are viewing them may not get necessarily the same message that the artist has in mind when the work is being created. Right. So we've had many instances, I think, over the last couple of decades where artists create work. Whether it's Hussein with the many works that he did, it's Prakash Jha with the films he makes. Many other people make historical movies and write books which may provoke communities, etc. And we find this huge outrage being channeled against them, a lot of violence, etc. Artists are therefore subjected to the opinions of their audience and their perceptions in a way that it is conveyed in a manner which is clearly illegal. It's violent, right? Do you think there is at all a space now for a law which protects artists and artworks against something like that? Very specifically, because we don't have a law like that. We have general laws on arson and on assault and things like that. But we find that I get the feeling that I think, if you were a young artist today and you wanted to put up a provocative piece, you would be really deterred. We have, and this is possibly not a great example, but we know that there is a woman in Kerala who had her children paint on her half naked about a few weeks ago. She's not really an artist as such, but she talks about how the female body, the female form, and its nudity shouldn't be confused with obscenity. But yes, yet we have a criminal case filed against her. Her bail has been rejected, and things like that. So people then find themselves, artists who want to really express themselves, find themselves confined in many ways. And I suspect that's why many years ago, many of our great artists went abroad and decided, like Amrita Shergill, if she did some of her work even today, you can imagine outrage, right?
No, it is, society wasn't so non-forgiving. I think with globalization, we are becoming very non-forgiving. We are losing our sense of space for ourselves and for others. And it's not just about the arts, Gopal. It's just we're becoming a very judgmental society. But yes, arts needs to be given the democratic expression. I remember Sousa, this is in 70s, I'm told, that he had his first nude exhibition, which was asked to be put down. But things were not that bad. I mean, Hussain painted all these years. Ramachandran sir has painted nudes in their own aesthetic way. Our culture, Ajanta, Ellora, Sithanavastal murals, Khajuraho, nudity is part of Indian culture. Kama Sutra, you know. So yes, I think as a country, I think we've been far ahead of even the West. For a number of years in where we are. So what has got lost is the question. I mean, Khajuraho was made more before so much more was done outside in the West. Kama Sutra was done at a time when the West did not know in terms of, I mean, they knew what Kama Sutra is, but what I'm saying is an expression of that aesthetic order was not seen with the liberty one does now, right? So somewhere we lost the plot. What has happened? I think it's for people to think that we need to bring back that. But yes, art is being curtailed. Having said that, I've been to other countries where I feel it's very heavily curtailed. We don't have it so bad. Can I just add? I have a very dear friend who is a homosexual, and he's unable to show his art in his country. Now imagine he has to show it in a private viewing in today's world. Now, how terrible is that? So at least we don't have that. But yes, we could do.
Not yet.
We could do, but we could do better. And it's time to think now. It's time for us who are thinkers to act on it. And there are people doing it. You know, I just feel, Gopal, I do want to say I'm very optimistic about things, even though when I see them falling, thinking, I just feel we are a speck if we have to look at this universe. This time is a speck, and it shall pass if it's going through a rough patch. And sometimes even a mother has to go through labor to have a beautiful child, right? We are going through labor pains. And I pray that it ends soon. And out comes a beautiful child, which is the new India.
I completely agree with you. I also have that hope of the resilience of our nation, that we'll weather any storm and come out of it, obviously for the better. I wanted to show you something. This is the original Constitution's facsimile copy, and it's obviously huge, as you can see. And there are these beautiful works of art. I don't know how clear it is, right? But that's
Nandlal Bose.
It is Nandlal Bose. And I found this part particularly interesting because this is our fundamental rights chapter, right? Our most basic rights. And see that image up there. It's Ram returning, right?
I can't see it, but I hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I do. Wow.
Now,
beautiful.
The funny part is we have many other images across the entire Constitution, which also all by Nandlal Bose. I mean, beautifully done. I mean, and we have different faiths being shown. This is the Buddhist, right? So we have a lot of this right across from the beginning. And that's always what my favorite book, what it's always talked about. And we've strangely reached a stage where, that would be judged harshly now as well, saying that, it's a secular constitution. Why do you have that? But it's not meant to be conveying a message of one faith against others. It's a message that our culture is so varied. And the reason why I wanted to mention Nandlal Bose is he was in Shantiniketan, and I think your guru, Mr. Ramachandran, was inspired by Nandlal Bose and the other people at Shantiniketan at that time. In our profession, I think our choice of our senior or the chamber that we join is so critical to who we become and how well we are as lawyers, because we're often judged from the chambers that we came. right?
Oh, okay.
So you think that that lawyer is from that chamber. So you think what his positive qualities could be and what his negative qualities could be, because our
Yes,
bosses
yes.
usually cast a big shadow on us.
Right,
So
right,
I,
right.
I can imagine that that could be a little bit of what happens with you guys also. You have to be very careful about your choice of mentor. How is it that you came to choose Mr. Ramachandran, or he chose you?
Both ways. Like we
Yeah,
choose our parents,
yeah,
um, there is a saying, if you want a guru, he comes to you. And I remember finishing 12th, I got what was called the Shankar's Gold Medal. So the one student in 5,000 gets it. So I was kind of cocky about it. I'll get admission in any art college, but I didn't. I couldn't get through anywhere. And I was doing history at Lady Shri Ram College, and I got through Jamia Millia. And frankly, I wasn't sure about Jamia, where it is, who the teachers are. But I think the universe conspired. I was meant to have him and many other. I had some amazing teachers. But yes, he's the person I stuck to. I'm called as Chamcha, and I'm very proud of it. You have to be a Chamcha of somebody to learn. Guru Shishya Parampara hai.
yeah.
And I remember uh, at an embassy gathering when I just happened to mention his name, and this gentleman who was an ambassador of a European country said, "Manisha, do you still have a guru?" So I said, "Don't corporates have management gurus?" I do, and I can choose when I feel I've learned enough from him. He still stays with me, but the gentleman is constantly giving me something which is new to learn. And I don't have to read books. not very good with reading, writing. But here's a man, I have a conversation and I learn something. But let me add, I think I have many gurus in life. So I have, and that it's easy for me. There's my art guru who tells me about life. My father is my biggest guru, right? We don't have to have one person in our life we look up
Absolutely.
to. But I surround myself with the likes of people who helped me and add to me. And that is, as they say, Sat Sangat. Sat is such a Sangat is company. I think the choice to surround yourself with goodness, with high quality people, with good objects is what is a constant learning and evolving process. And that's something I work at it very diligently. And I make sure I do not connect with that which pulls me down anymore. I think you reach a 50
Yeah,
figure to realize what you want and what you definitely
yeah,
don't want, right? Yeah.
yeah. So it's possibly around that time, I think, when you decide to get yourself a camera and a dictaphone, and to start cataloging other artists. I find that quite interesting, because very often in our professions, we do our work and try to go ahead with that. Cataloging your, maybe your seniors or your colleagues or your contemporaries, is something very rare. Had anybody else ventured towards something like Artist Through the Lens before you did?
No, I think, well, Ram Rahman and Jyoti Bhatt have been photographing artists. Ram
Right.
Rahman is a photographer.
Hmm.
Jyoti Bhatt is a painter and a photographer.
Hmm.
But in the recent past, I think I'm the only one. And what I could do is, if you want, I could share them
Can we
while we
see
are
that?
talking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fine.
And
And you can tell us about Artist Through
yes.
the Lens.
So basically, just to let you know, I started actually photographing Mr. Ramachandran in his studio simply because I just see him as a gold mine of so much, and that's him in his studio.
Yeah.
So this is at a time when gadgets were very expensive, and my parents really indulged me. And I would go to him with my dictaphone, with my movie camera, with still camera, and start cataloging him simply because I feel he's a recluse, and I felt it my duty to show the world what this man
Yeah.
is for me, right? And that's me and him against his work. Um, with this process of photographing and cataloging and documenting him, which I've now been doing from 1991, I realized that the camera has become a friend. So I started actually taking the camera to artist studios randomly.
Right.
I listened to my heart, and I would like to say to all the young friends, and even those who have hit post 50 blues, kya karna hai zindagi se, just follow your heart. And I had no agenda. I just carried my camera to artist studios. And before I knew, it became a very big archive of photographing artists in their studios. Let me go back. That's Ram Kumar,
Yes.
and this is his studio in the basement. And imagine, Gopal, having access to such beautiful souls
Yeah.
and their pristine spiritual places of work. I say spiritual because every artist, even if you don't connect with them, their abode is a place where they create and they're nearest to God or the highest energy. So when you go to a studio of an artist, you're actually touching something very spiritual. Whether even if they live with a facade with their life, but when you enter that space, that facade is dropped, even if they want to have it, right?
Yeah.
In my case, too, because I'm an artist, I had access to all of them, which probably a photographer might not have. So when I said, "Sir, can I come?" they would say, "Aa jao, aa jao." And over lunch and chai, I would spend the whole day, right? This was very organic. But now it's almost 2000, yeah, it's almost 17 years that I've built this archive of artists photographing fellow artists in their studio.
This is
And
Mr.
that's
Khanna,
his,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Mr. Krishan Khanna. That's his
Yeah.
amazing basement studio. It has so much memorabilia at the back, you know. He's 92
Five
now.
or 92,
95,
is it?
could be.
95, I thought. Yeah.
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 And look at him.
Because,
Yeah.
wow, it's
There was
amazing.
his birthday recently was, yeah, you're probably right. But look at him.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So much learning. That's my friend Ananjit, who is a dog lover. I just thought
Yeah.
it was so adoring to see him,
Sweet.
you know. So look at these studio spaces. Now, this is a gentleman. Again, what happens is friends would say, "Manisha, have you gone and photographed so and so?" This is Mr. Chatpar. I
Okay.
don't know him, but
Huh.
I'm told he revolutionized. He did so much for many Baroda artists. He didn't practice for too long because he had two very ill sisters. But look at
Right.
the gentleness in his eyes.
Yeah.
And I spent an afternoon with him because a friend asked me, "Go, if you're going to Baroda, go meet him, and I will help you with the meeting." Now, so I keep listening to those little, you know, call it knocks, call it suggestions, and I just feel this sums up so much about the man, you know. Natraj Sharma. When I'm in Baroda, I live with Natraj and Gargi, both dear friends, but look at his fine studio. He takes 3 months over each work. And people like him are very quiet, Gopal. So when I'm allowed in that space, it's a privilege. It's not easy for an artist to work with somebody around. But I've made the most of it. I like being the fly on the wall, which is what I call my writing. I do a regular article called Fly on the Wall. It's a photo essay.
Yeah.
And now here, sometimes they do things for me. They're Mona and Amitabh, they're dear friends. I said, "Kuch kar lo, aapka reflection aa raha hai, maza aa raha hai." Now here they dramatized it. You know,
Okay.
they did this. So this is actually, yeah, it's a beautiful story. That's a Gaitonde in the back, and that's Bal Chabda.
Okay.
Bal he just lost his wife. He was not meeting anyone. He was in depression. And I was carrying chikki for him from a friend because I knew he will meet me if I carry something which is his favorite food.
How sweet.
I just called him in Punjabi and I said, "Can I bring it?" And he said, "Sure." He met me for 15 minutes and he said, "Beta, now you go. I'm very tired." And I said, "Whose painting is it at the back?" He said, "It's a very dear friend's painting, but I don't remember his name." It was Gaitonde.
Wow.
So
Well,
what I'm saying,
yeah, sorry, go on.
yeah, imagine, I mean, it's a Gaitonde work in his collection.
Yeah.
He forgets the name,
How
says it's my
sweet.
dear friend, but just look at his eyes. There's so much
Yeah.
pain, right? But to be given entry to their house at a time when he won't want anyone. Now, he didn't know me, but he knew all my friends, seniors. And I got the chikki, which is a Punjabi gurka, you know, mitha. That
Yeah.
just melted him, right? So
Wow.
that's him. That's Himmat Shah in his Jaipur studio. Masuma works a lot with hair. She makes sculptures with hair.
Right.
She's from Pakistan. She's in Lahore. And I saw her reflection on the wall with her hair.
Oh,
So I thought it best describes her, right?
yeah.
Again in Karachi. She left Karachi. She left from India in 1964, much after partition, because
Okay.
all her family was in Pakistan.
Okay.
So it was a beautiful story when we'll talk about Pakistan
Yeah.
and partition.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just quickly going through. So this is one of my favorites, Nilima Sheikh.
Nilima Sheikh, yeah.
Yeah, and she joked, she said, Manisha, जब मैं चली जाऊं ये मेरा photo लगानी है कहीं.
How sweet.
There, I mean, that's how she loves this photograph, right? And that's Probir Gupta. So when you look at the energy of that action, right? It's not
Yeah.
contrived. You're sitting with a friend, you've had your chai, you've had the odd, drink, food, and then the artist starts creating, and then you catch those moments.
Yeah.
Ranbir Kaleka is known for his hat. You don't see him without his hat.
Okay.
So here he is reflected, his hat is reflected. So people from the art world will just know who it is.
Yeah, yeah, they will.
My friend Ruhi from Karachi.
Hmm.
Sabah Iqbal from Karachi again. These are all people who became part of my partition project.
Yeah.
Because when I went to photograph them, I heard stories about partition. That's Walson. He's reflected along with his work on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's, yeah.
Wow. No, did any artists say no to you?
Yes, they did. They
Okay.
did. Am I on, not on full screen, right?
They're not on full screen. I mean, you can just close that window or stop the
Okay.
sharing. Just stop the screen sharing.
Stop this. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Huh.
And it bothered me sometimes, but I also understand, being a fellow artist, that sometimes you don't want it.
Yeah, sometimes you need your space, right?
Yeah. But can I just add, most of them came around because when they saw the years I've put in it, especially when it was shown at the Kochi Biennale by Kiranada Museum as an invited collateral. I remember some of them saying, Manisha, kabhi bhi dil kare aa jao. So the door opened for me, because I think they realize it's my art project. I'm not doing it for commercial reasons. I do it from the love of my heart. But yes, I think I've learned to take no positively. It's okay. Yeah.
Now, how exactly did this slowly move into, the postcards from home? How did that come to be? You yourself, your family has had a connection with Pakistan, as have, I think, several of our artists have that connection across the border. And it's always, a painful thought that so many families had been divided, so many memories being, uprooted, as it were, half formed. And you managed to find 47 artists. Was that number deliberate? And did you think you'd find 47 people with that kind of connection?
No, Gopal. And that's where I constantly tell everyone, including the young kids, I just really believe the universe conspires to do something for you. You really want it badly, it'll happen. I mean, to be able to go to Pakistan a few times, for my show, and then I just said, let me just carry my project of photographing artists to Pakistan. Also because a lot of friends have shown in India and they've come to India. So by default, along with Indian artists, I was photographing them. I didn't have a plan to have an India-Pakistan story. I was just photographing artists. There was no border in my mind. But when I went for my solo, I told my friends that I want to photograph artists in their studios. And if you ask me why, I have no reason. I just do it. And that's how I operate. And when I went, Gopal, it really gives me goosebumps. I heard the most beautiful stories. The moment they would say, "Acha, India se ho, hum bhi, hamari nani hai, hamari dadi Hindu hai, meri nani Hindu hai, aur hum yahan se aaye the." I heard such amazing stories. And I have spoken about it in my TED talk. And it's a moment I think of, how do I put it? It's just, sometimes this epiphany just comes into you. So I was in Ruhi's studio, my friend Ruhi. And she was showing me her work. She was part of the photograph I showed you before. And the azan was playing in the background from a mosque nearby. And her work is very poignant. And her work is around her parents. And they're both gone. And we both looked at each other and she just held my hand and said, my parents are from India. And piche azan ho rahi hai. And I held her hand and I said, my parents are from here. And we both howled. We howled. And if you see, we have both nothing to do with the other country. Why does it move us so much? So I read about this, and I've had friends who have read about collective pain of generations post the people who have gone through it. I really feel that's the moment I felt, kuch karna hai. So here I am. I landed up photographing the Pakistani artist, but I knew who has an India Connect because I had conversations. I came back home and this thought came into my head that I have to bring them together. But I didn't know which Indian artists have a Pakistan Connect because I have been photographing for 13 years by then. So I sent messages to Indian artists with a Punjabi and a Sindhi surname. There must be around 200 artists. Do you have a connected partition? And I started getting messages. And that's how I put together the artists. But yes, I did consciously make it 47. I had 2-3 more, but I decided to do it as 47 simply because I felt the number rang a bell in the heart. But it's not deterring me from continuing it because 2022 is 75 years of India's partition. So I'm working on something with 75 as a number. Wow. But yes, I think that's how it happened. And I call the WhatsApp a 6-lane virtual highway. I did not need a visa. There was no border, thanks to social media and technology. Yeah. I did my whole project on WhatsApp with friends from Pakistan. So I asked them that beautiful story which tugs at their heart, which they have heard growing up from their parents or from them who themselves were part of it. And I took Indian stories. So there are 22 Pakistani artists, 25 Indian artists who have written about what tugs at their heart when they think of the home lost. And I must say, my parents still, when they talk in Punjabi, they say home in Punjabi. Ki hamare, in our home, we used to do this. It's amazing. There is no border in that. There is no different country. That is home. So and they're not bitter. What makes a generation, and I felt that same in Pakistan when I met parents of my friends. There was no bitterness. There was just love. What makes a generation which has gone through so much have not a negative thing to say about the other? And it's something for us to learn now, where we have not had the pain which they did. And we are so bitter as a race. What made them where they are? What makes them smile still? I think my parents are one of the most positive human beings. And I hope I bring that to me because of them. Can I be that positive at 80? I really pray and wish that I can emulate what they are. And as I said, that's the energy I got on the other side of the border. And I wanted to bring that together. And I want to add, I've never felt that in my practice as an artist, I've never felt that art can change nations. It's a very personal expression. But when I did that project in Lahore, I feel in my own small way, I shifted a sentiment. I don't know if I'll do it with my painting, but this project, when I saw so many people from Lahore, in Lahore, and so many people coming and talking to me, sharing their stories, and we would openly cry. People I didn't know, but we were crying. I mean, this project has made me howl so much. I feel the same energy was here in Kochi Biennale, where I showed it as a collateral, and at the India Art Fair. So these voices are not being heard, the voices of happiness, of love for the other. I wish we could have collaborative projects, because this will also show what the world doesn't hear or see. Yeah. What we see is a very negative side, but there's so much beauty on both sides and love. We don't see it.
I think that's because very often governments and politics comes in the way.
Yeah.
You know, somebody was telling me the other day that, China is just being overly aggressive. I hate China. I said, you don't hate China. You hate the policies of the Chinese government at the moment. You don't know the Chinese people. They're people like us. You know, tomorrow people would accuse us and hate
Absolutely.
us because of what our governments do.
Absolutely.
And I think your initiative, I just feel, because I went through every single one of those postcards,
Oh,
and I was so touched by the kind of message it sends, that art
yeah.
actually, I think, has a huge healing effect.
Yeah.
That generation really hasn't had closure.
They haven't.
I went back and saw there was that superb Google ad, the video.
Yeah.
You remember of that
I
two
do.
old gentlemen who were kids growing
Beautiful.
up, and it was so gorgeous. What a lovely
Yeah.
ad! I mean, you can't have a dry eye at the end of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I keep thinking, that was such a space that we have left unexploited for so many years, of
Yeah.
actually building, bridges among our peoples.
Yeah.
And I mean, full praise to you for having uh, done something like that. I think it brings out a lot of very interesting, lovely, lovely stories. I read the one about Krishan Khanna and his love story with his
Yeah.
wife. It's
Yeah.
80 years now for them. I
Yeah.
think that's incredible. What a story from the time they were kids.
Yeah.
And the other one, which was recalled about Mr. Bal Chabda and Tayyab Mehta apparently being guards together. They were
Yes.
gatekeepers.
Yeah.
And look where they finally reached.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think Neelima Sheikh's recollections of Lala Lajpat Rai calling her parents and asking them to set up a TB hospital.
Yeah. Which is still there in his
Which,
name in Lahore. They
yeah,
can't change the name because it's part of their, the legal draft.
okay.
So the name is
So
still
that can't
there.
be altered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think, Gopal, there's so many stories. So I'm now venturing on more stories from the art world, which is
yeah,
not confined just to artists, but I'm talking to gallerists, I'm talking to curators, so many of them who have a connection with Pakistan and partition. And it's a lot of work. It's single-handedly, I've done it with no help. But I feel I need funds now. And if anyone's
yeah,
hearing it, I need funds now to take. I can't do it myself.
yeah,
It's a mammoth
yeah.
task. But my mother said something very beautiful. She said, "Tumhe ye khuda ne karaya hai."
How
And look at
sweet.
the words our parents use.
Khuda.
She said, "Tumhe ye khuda ne
Yeah,
karaya, beta." So
yeah.
I really do feel I was a mediator to do this. But I want to share those three images. May I, of
Yeah,
the
yeah, please,
partition
please,
project?
please.
Yeah.
Let's see that.
So this is an image actually I was given by a friend, Rashmi Kaleka. It has moved me so much. It's from a movie called The Door by Mohsin Makmalbaf. And it resonates with what happened with Rashmi Kaleka. The man's carrying his door, you know. And Rashmi tells me that her uncle missed Lahore so much. And he'd come to Punjab that one fine day he took two Gorkha, soldiers with him. And Lahore was, of course, just a few miles away. He walked to Lahore, unscrewed the door of his house, came back and put it in his house. And it's still the door in his Dwarka house.
How sweet. What a
Isn't that
story.
beautiful? Yeah. And
Yeah.
she sent this photograph and it really moved me. So I'm sharing that. This is Rashmi Kaleka, the artist. That's me at the Lahore Biennale. And I feel when I did the project, Salima Hashmi, who's Faiz Ahmed Faiz's daughter, who's the who's the lady behind everything which is so beautiful in the arts in Pakistan. She helped me with the Pakistan leg of the project. But this is me showing my work at Lahore. And that's the old Lahore fort. This is how it was shown, Gopal.
Okay.
It's sacks of wheat, and wheat, because wheat is the staple diet of both the Punjabs.
Both the Punjabs, yeah.
It's called kanak in Punjabi, and kanak means gold. And I felt it. We are two golden countries across each other. If we just lean against each other for love and support, imagine the strength we'll have. And in each sack is the postcards of India and Pakistan. So one postcard with a photograph of the artist taken by me, and at the back is their text. So people can, when they pick up a postcard, they actually have to hold the wheat in their hand. So we feel that energy of that roti, which is a staple diet. So people could pick up all 47 postcards and take them home.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is in Lahore at the Biennale in 2017. This is how they were put. There's Indian artists and Pakistani artists,
Yeah.
a pair in each sack. And this is at the Royal Shahi Hammam, which is restored by the Aga Khan Trust. And what was fascinating is when before I entered this building, I had to enter a gate. And you know what was written in Urdu at the top? Delhi Gate.
Really? Wow.
So Delhi Gate and Lahori Gate face each other.
Yeah, face each other.
So I had to enter Delhi Gate to walk through that market and come to my venue. This is what the venue was. This is how the opening was. People would come, pick up the cards, talk to me. And I was there for 5 days, and a lot of breaking down happened with strangers. And
Wow.
this is when it was shown. Salima Hashmi and Muniza Hashmi, Faiz Ahmed Faiz's daughters, asked me to show it in Faiz Festival. This installation was curated by Ali Raza. I felt
Right.
I want to add that it's my project, but when I gave it to somebody who I respected, Salima ji invited him. He brought another, how do I twist, edge, or another beautiful medium to display, something I couldn't have done. So these are 47 postcards lying as stacks, and people could pick up one each. But the picking up of the postcard became, you have to bend 47 times to pick up the 47 cards, right? It's an homage to our partition year. And the act of moving became like a circumambulance, like walking around Mecca. It became a ritual. So it was
Yeah.
beautiful when at a given time, Gopal, there were almost 150 people, imagine, for 4 days picking up these cards. And
Yeah.
Salima ji went on to say that, Manisha, I have not seen the common man come and be involved with the public art project the way they have here. And many of them did not understand English, but they knew कि कुछ है, अपनी चीज है. They would just pick it up, you know. So this was very special. And then I showed it at the Kochi Biennale as scrolls, because giving cards would have been very expensive. And because the Kochi Biennale goes on for 3 months. So I made long scrolls.
Yeah.
And interestingly, Gopal, which is very fascinating, somebody from the BBC interviewed me, and he said, so what cloth have you used? And it just hit me. The name of the cloth is Raj Cottons.
Really?
Can you believe it? So a Raj cotton cloth is stitched together to bring India and Pakistan together. I just felt, look at the irony that the cloth which has separated us here is stitched together with words on it. So that was something which I'm just sharing. It was very beautiful. Yeah, I'm just saying, yeah.
No, but there's obviously such a cosmic connection that you keep coming back to these coincidences, no?
I do.
It's quite fascinating. I wanted to ask you a bit about Indian artists or artists anywhere as it is. It's a long, lonely furrow for most artists, right? Yeah, people like you and many of the others that you have catalogued, etc., are possibly those who have achieved a level of recognition and success and fame. But I would imagine that there are large artist communities who are finding it difficult on a daily basis to make ends meet, to get their work presented and recognized, and especially during times of COVID, etc. Now, because it is such a solo, isolating kind of practice, the work of art, isn't there some way of ensuring that there's a community to take care of each other in situations like this?
Yes, we should have. Like
you
they have
don't
matches
have,
for.
weren't there any ventures to try and
Oh,
have?
I mean, I think like we have matches for cricketers, veteran
Yeah.
cricketers.
Yeah.
We don't have, Gopal, and I see the pain. I have many friends who are calling, especially those who are not financially stable. Manisha, kya kare? We don't have money to pay the fees, you know. So a few small ventures have happened, but it needs to, it needs to be more. And we keep saying the government needs to do it, but yeah, we also need to do something at our level. And I mean, if I look at myself, I feel I don't have the energy to do so much. I do my own little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, a recent example is when a friend called and I introduced him to a few gallerists who are selling
Yeah.
very well.
Yeah.
But it needs some momentum, and it needs some energetic people, and we'll follow. I'm in this case now at this stage in my life, I think I'll be the follower, because I call it selfish, but I want to paint. My
Yeah.
kids have grown up. I finally have time to myself.
Yeah.
And yes, I very selfishly need it for myself. So, but anything which is requiring support, whether it's giving a work, or I'll be happy to. But we need voices which take it forward. And it's really the need of the hour, because the creative people, unfortunately, like other governments, where very heavyweight funds have been given to the arts.
Yeah.
They actually have. Germany and Britain have given huge funding, especially Germany.
Right.
We don't even think. In fact, I was seeing through a WhatsApp message which was forwarded on the arts group.
Hmm.
Painters, sculptors don't even come in that.
Oh.
Craftsmen come. But we don't come in the people who need help post-COVID. So
Okay.
I don't know if somebody's saying something, because they said we'll bring it up, but you are marginalizing us outside the marginalized. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
You know?
That's awful. And also there seems to be this perception, I don't know how far it's true, that as far as people who appreciate art and who want to buy art are concerned, there are a few agents and middlemen who artificially, push the price up and claim that this artist is amazing and just project a few. Um, Art has always been that way, somewhat subjective, but you have the tendency of many of these middlemen unscrupulously trying to profit while allowing possibly equally or more talented artists to fall by the wayside. Um, and there is also the problem that many galleries and agents take huge commissions of artists. I'm imagining you're probably also a victim of that, but I won't make you comment on it.
No, I
Uh,
will comment,
okay.
because I don't see myself as a victim, but I'll comment. Yeah.
Okay, but it's almost a system that it tends to be exploitative to both the art aficionado as well as the artists themselves. Is this contrary to the truth, or is there some truth
Um,
in it?
there are two things which I need to say. We artists need galleries. We
Yeah,
can't exist without a gallery, because creative people do not like to interact with the outer world. When you do it, something in you starts shifting. There's a very pure space, and when
yeah,
you are allowed to create in a pure space, the finances and the other aspects are taken care by good people. So can I just say the word for a good gallery could be like a husband-wife relationship, where which is equal. There's give and take, and they take good commissions. I'm not saying they don't, but they do a lot for us. Uh, it's a lot of it is unwritten. People sign bonds, some don't. A lot of it is on ethics. So, like, I don't sell from home, right? I can easily do it, but I don't. I choose not to, because my gallery does a lot, right? Yes, when the economic boom happened, a lot of middlemen came. There are good middlemen also. The art world needs them. But just like if I want to learn about jazz or classical music, I'll go to the right people to learn. I'll Google, I'll work hard. So when people choose to make decisions based on somebody, they are actually being ignorant. Sadly, the art world crumbled because of that. They didn't do their homework. But if I now want to listen to classical music, I will go and research. I will go to a friend who knows classical music or a musician. That's the kind of research you need to do in art. Why is art any different? It can be seen as a commoner can see it and enjoy it. I don't know Indian classical music, but I play it every day in my house. So, but if I want to learn more, I'll go the next step. So a commoner can see art, enjoy it, but if he wants to start buying, he has to do his homework. And that homework needs homework. You get me? So
fair
what I'm
enough.
saying is art world needs galleries. It needs the good dealers. I have friends who are very good dealers. They have an impeccable reputation. Their word is taken by even collectors as a word of truth. But there are others, but that's the same thing in Gopal, anything. Na? Up to mutual shares kharidoge, funds kharidoge, you will have the odd agent, and then you'll meet somebody who really is a financial analyst. That's our homework. And that is something we need to do if we want to take anything as a learning process to the next step.
Manisha, I wanted to thank you so much for taking us, curating us through the works of yourself and others, of helping build some initial bridges with artist communities that need to heal, and for helping us better understand how important it is to look around and get inspiration from the people around us, as well as nature and the environment, which at this time, I think, has to be a priority for all of us. It's been fascinating talking to you, and I wanted to thank you very much once again for taking the time out to talk to us.
Thank you, Gopal. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.